The days of crying finished. Eventually they stopped crying. It doesn't say that by Aaron. It doesn't say they ever stopped crying. So the Torah points out, interestingly, in the place you would think where the Torah would highlight the virtue of Moshe Rabbeinu, his virtue, the Torah says something which seems to be, of course, with all the honor to Moshe Rabbeinu. You would think the Torah just, goes all the way. And here the Torah says something which is not flattering at all about Moshe Rabbeinu. Not everyone's crying for him. But before we get there, let's first figure out why is it that people were crying more for Aaron than they were crying for Moshe. Oh, excellent, Yisrael. Because, the sound's not working? Oh my gosh. The sound is not working. Hessel, can you hear the sound?
So you've been doing it for the whole...
Can you guys hear me? Anybody on?
Is your volume up?
Maybe write in the comments, man.
Oh, press on.
What?
Press the sound. Where's
All right.
sound? Where's sound?
Do you know if I can park in the back or the
No, that's not the microphone volume, that's the speaker volume.
Oh.
On the outside.
Go ahead, doctor.
I don't know how to do the microphone volume.
No, it's
All
on
right.
media.
Maybe in settings.
All right, we'll figure it out. So
okay.
people are still watching. Must be something's happening. All right. So that's just interesting. Okay. So they just texted. We have sound now. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, moving right along.
Give a little bit of summary of what you said,
Okay, so the question is, how come everyone cried for Aaron when Aaron passes away, and they don't cry for Moses when Moses passes away? Not everybody cries. And the answer is, the Torah says that Aaron's unique quality was that he would make peace between husband and wife, and between man and his fellow. How did he make peace? The Torah says that he would go over and see two people. He would see two people fighting, and he would tell one of the parties that were in a quarrel. He would say, "Oh, the person you're arguing with, Reuven, I saw him last night. I saw him in shul. He was crying. Why was he crying? He said he just wishes that you guys could be friends again. He misses the relationship." You go over to a husband when they're about on the road to get divorced. Your wife was so upset yesterday. She said, "We'll get divorced, but I'll never find a husband like that ever again." And she's crying. She's so upset. So when they would hear that rejuvenated the relationship. And you go to each party and say that, and that's how he started the friendship again. And the question is, though, how come Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do the same thing? If Aaron did it, and it's such a wonderful thing, Moshe Rabbeinu would think for sure would do it. How come only Aaron does it and Moses does not do that? What's the difference in Moses and Aaron? Moses doesn't do it and Aaron does do it. And you see, it's a virtue. You see, the Torah says that Aaron was more cherished by the Jewish people. When Aaron passes away, they can't stop crying. He's the angel of peace. Where is our Malach HaShalom? Where's our angel of peace? They can't stop crying. They're always missing him. Every year when the day of his passing, it's interesting. The only person in the Torah says the anniversary of their passing is Aaron. It doesn't say by anybody else, not by Abraham, not by Isaac, not by Jacob, not by Moses. It says in the Talmud the day Moses passes away. But in the Bible, in the Torah itself, the only person the Torah says the day of their passing was Aaron. Why? Because Aaron was unique. When on the anniversary of Aaron's passing, everybody was there. This is the day that Aaron passed away. They considered it really, really a day of tragedy because, unfortunately, after he passed away, there must have been some kind of renewal of discord between people because he was the one who made peace between people. So the question is, how come Moshe didn't do this? So to understand this question, let's talk a little bit more about the name of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned in this Torah portion. Why is his name not mentioned? In fact, this question is not just why isn't his name mentioned in this Torah portion. The question is that this is the Torah portion you would expect to have his name more than any other Torah portion. Because the whole Torah portion this week is at the climax of Moshe Rabbeinu's accomplishment. He just brought the Torah Mount Sinai, and now he has given us the commandment of the tabernacle, and now they're getting ready. Now the tabernacle is getting prepared, and the God's presence is ready to come to the earth. This is like the highlight of his career, and yet his name isn't mentioned. How come his name is not mentioned?
How do we know what to talk about him?
The very opening verse of the Torah is Va'ata Tetzav. What's Va'ata mean? You Moshe Rabbeinu. You should command the Jewish people. So how come it doesn't say Moshe Rabbeinu's name if the whole thing's about him? There's many explanations. I'll tell you three of them. The Baal HaTurim
Well, you say, "Mecheni na mesiprecha."
Oh, very good. That when you say something, your words have an effect. Moshe Rabbeinu told God, forgive the Jewish people for the sin of the golden calf. Because if you won't forgive them, I promise you, God, I don't want to have anything to do with your Torah. Erase my name for your book. Take my name out of your book. Wow. So Moshe Rabbeinu said it, even though God agreed to forgive us, but since these are the words of a tzaddik, the words of a tzaddik have an effect, and therefore Moshe Rabbeinu is at least taken out of one Torah portion. Why is this the Torah portion his name is taken out of? So some commentaries say like this: when did the sin of the golden calf happen? Next week's Torah portion. So God didn't want to take Moshe's name out of any Torah portion. He kept on pushing it off. And when the whole cycle came around again, the last parsha before the sin of the golden calf, the last one was Parshat Tetzaveh. And therefore God waited for the last Torah portion because he didn't want to take out Moshe's name, and he waited for the last Torah portion. And Parshat Tetzaveh. The previous Rebbe is famous for the following statement. Actually, it's attributed to the Chafetz Chaim, but I think it originated from the previous Rebbe, who said you can't say Lashon Hara about yourself either. Not only your words have an effect. Famously, the Chafetz Chaim was once traveling, and this man sees the Chafetz Chaim, doesn't know it's a Chafetz Chaim. He's like, "Oh, where are you from?" "I'm from Radin." "Oh, can you tell me the way to the house of the Chafetz Chaim? The great tzaddik, the Chafetz Chaim." He's like, "Who are you going to see?" "The Chafetz Chaim." "Oh, you mean Rabbi Yisrael Meir Cohen? Yisrael Meir Cohen, a rabbi?" I mean, he don't get me wrong, he's a rabbi, but like, the way you talk about him was like, it's not so great. So the Chafetz Chaim, the guy gets so upset, he slaps the Chafetz Chaim across the face. "Chutzpin yak, how dare you say that to the Chafetz Chaim?" Anyways, he makes it to the Chafetz Chaim's house, and he almost faints. Who was the guy who greets him? The Chafetz Chaim himself was the guy who he slapped in the face. The Chafetz Chaim said, "From you I learned an important lesson. From you I learned you can't say Lashon Hara. I made a whole book about Lashon Hara. I learned from you can't say Lashon Hara about yourself. Your words have an effect." Remarash famously said that, it says in the Gemara that we are judged in this world. We're judged what we do in this world, but you only get the ruling about what happens to you in this world by a DVD. You know what a DVD? He doesn't use the word DVD. The Rebbe Marash lived a long time ago, so he used the word probably VHS. Anyways, the Rebbe Marash said that they show you a video of your life after your passing, and they say they don't. But the one thing is, they don't show you which character is the main character. They show you some other guy, and they say, "Hey, does this person deserve A, B, and C for his actions?" And you don't know who it's talking about, so you're just like, "Yeah, get him." And then they tell you it's you. So the reason why they do it that way is because the Baal Shem Tov says that angels can't really have a power over a soul. You need to have yourself to weigh in on your own court case. It's a general system.
You just told us that, so now when we go up, we're going to know what to do.
There's a lot of things you forget when you get there. It says there's a river you go through before getting to heaven called the River of Dinar. You go through that river, you forget whatever you saw in this world. But I'll tell you something more important that you don't now. The Rebbe Marash said the same is true in this world too. The Rebbe Marash said when you see someone do something good, you say, "That person deserves such brachas. Look what that person did." Then you automatically get the same blessings yourself. By saying another person deserves blessings, that brings you blessings. So it's a great. Our words. When you bless someone else, you get blessed. But not just you get blessed by God. When you bless someone else, they're just getting your blessing. But the blessing that you get from God in the merit of blessing somebody else comes from God to get a much greater blessing. So in general, the way things work in the divine court is that they want the soul to weigh in, and therefore they show you that DVD, and you have to weigh in, and you have to give that your ruling on what happens. So your words have a tremendous effect. The famous story of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, once came to inaugurate a shul in Lubavitch, and he came to inaugurate the shul. The custom was he would say a discourse, a Hasidic discourse. But he asked his Chassidim, "Would you guys like to hear a story or a discourse?" He never asked that question before. So they're pretty sure like they should go for the discourse, right? Because he said, "Do you want to hear a story or a discourse?" They're pretty sure that they should go for the story because why is he asking us that question? He tells them the following story. This guy owned some land, and he owned some houses, and there was one Jew who was not paying his rent. This Jewish guy owned this home. He rented it out to this other guy. The guy couldn't pay his rent. So the owner of this house went to visit his Rebbe, whose name was Rabbi Yisrael of Rizhin. He went to Rabbi Yisrael of Rizhin, and he asked Rabbi Yisrael of Rizhin, what should I do? The guy's not paying his rent. What should I do? So Rabbi Yisrael of Rizhin said to him, you can't pay his rent, so give him a break as a Jew. What are you going to do? You throw him out in the street? You can't throw him out in the street. So he's like, Rebbe, it's very hard. My parnasa comes from I get my livelihood from renting out this house. He says, give him another year. So he tells the guy, I'll give you one more year. So I forgive the debt, but this year you got to pay rent. He doesn't pay rent another second year. He goes back to his Rebbe. His Rebbe, the guy didn't pay rent the second year. He says, forgive him a second year. So he forgave the whole second year of rent. Came a third year of rent. He didn't pay him the third year. We went back to his Rebbe, and the Rebbe said to him, forgive him again. It was a little harder that time. And he couldn't, and he threw them out of the house. So he came to heaven, Tzemach Tzedek said. They went to go judge his case. And they came to the conclusion that he made a big mistake. And they wanted to, and all the great things he did before didn't equal up to the enormity of throwing out a Jewish family out in the cold, in the winter. So the guy's like, listen, he was a businessman, and even in heaven he had some temerity. He says, he argued his case. He says, guys, you're telling me what I deserve? You guys are angels. Do you have any idea what it's like over there, down there? You're telling me that this is what should happen to me? Come on, you know what it's like? The angel's like, okay, you know what? Well, let's ask a soul. They call the Beis Yosef. They call the author of the Shulchan Aruch. The author of the Shulchan Aruch, what's the ruling over here? Simple. You can't behave like that. So this wealthy Jew who's now he's playing who wants to be a millionaire in heaven. He's already used his lifeline. What does he do now? So he says, he tells the angels, listen, I have another idea. You're calling the Beis Yosef, who's passed away hundreds of years ago. Call somebody who's alive today in the world. They should weigh in on this case. So Tzemach Tzedek said to this Chassidim, what do you guys say? And the Chassidim were intelligent, and they knew that they had a chance to help this guy. And they're like, innocent, innocent, innocent. And Baruch Hashem, they were able to help that guy out. So the words we say about other people have a great effect, and that's the reason Moshe Rabbeinu's name isn't mentioned, because he said, let my name be erased. Why this Torah portion? So I told you one reason, and I'll tell you a second reason. Moshe Rabbeinu used the words, erase my name from your book. In Hebrew, the word from your book is misifracha. The last letter of the word sifracha is letter chaf, 20. What's a 20th Torah portion? This week's Torah portion. So therefore Moshe is asking God, erase my name from the 20th Torah portion. Okay. So there's another explanation of why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not mentioned. His name is not mentioned because today is the day of his passing. So his name is omitted from the Torah portion because he passes away, and as a sign of his passing, so his name is removed.
Usually,
the Chernobyl Rebbe says it, 20 Yafis.
You have to remember the man who's passing, You have to remember his name.
So
why you should pick it out?
Oh, it's a good question. So I'll tell you the short answer, a very good question. The short answer like this. Short answer actually connected to what we're talking about. On the day of Moshe Rabbeinu's birth and day of his passing, you see something deeper about Moshe Rabbeinu. There is your name. Your name is used for other people to call you. But then there is who you are yourself. Not your name, just your very essence. What's the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu? What's the essence of Moses? His Torah? The Torah is called by the name of Moshe. Torah is called the Torah of Moshe. That's his name. But there's also something in Moses that's higher than a name. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses is called the faithful shepherd. That's his essence. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the light fills the world. What's the light of Moshe Rabbeinu? His devotion to the Jewish people. That's his essence. That's his core. So in his request to God, take me out of your book, you see the very core of Moshe Rabbeinu. You see his very essence. He's ready to give up his bond with Torah to save the Jewish people. So that's why his name isn't mentioned, but as I mentioned before, Ba'ata means you. The essence of Moshe is in this Torah portion. In a way, he's here more than in any other Torah portion. Not his revelation, not the way he's called, but his very core comes to expression, his request, erase me from your book.
It's like you say Hashem, Baruch Atah.
Right, exactly. Right. Baruch Atah. Atah refers to God's essence higher than his name. Moda'ani is not of God's name because it connects to God's essence. There's another explanation given by the Midrash Torah. Reb Shem Einstich writes 800 years ago that this Torah portion is where Moshe Rabbeinu moves aside in the place of his brother Aaron. Really, this should have been the Torah portion where Moshe should have mentioned every single word. It's all about Moshe Rabbeinu's great accomplishment, building the tabernacle, but he moves aside and he has one Torah portion that's dedicated to Aaron. Therefore, it's very fitting, according to this explanation, to discuss the special, unique quality of Aaron and how he was different to Moshe. And Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't like Aaron for a very important reason, but what was their mutual exclusive qualities? So to understand this, I want to tell you guys a story. Story about this Jew named Jacob. Jacob lived in London. With a story from Rabbi Shneur Ashkenazi. Incredible story. The story is like this. Jacob lives in England, and he's in the paper business. And he does this phenomenal deal. And he's paid in cash. And he has 100,000 silver, what's it called? English currency, 100,000 silver. Sterling. 100,000 sterling, thank you. 100,000 sterling. How much is that worth then? All right. 200,000? Times two. All right. He has 100,000 sterling. And he figures, it's not so far from the hotel where the meeting was to his car. Let's walk to the car. 3 African-American gentlemen hold him up. Give us your money. Leave that bag here and run away. So his life's not in danger. Leave us the bag and run away. Mm-hmm. But it's not easy to let go of your money. So what does Jacob say? So Jacob says, guys, he sees the leader of them. He learns the leader, about 27 years old. He says, you look like a very fine person, a very intelligent person. Tell me, why are you taking this away from me? Why are you doing this to me? What do you need the money for? He says, I need the money because I want to buy some vodka and some drugs. Okay. How much does it cost? He says it costs 10 sterling. He says, okay. He said it costs 5 sterling. He says, okay. So here's 10 sterling. Here's 10. I said, okay, thank you. And he turns aside and walk away. He goes in his car. He can't believe what's going on. He's just almost lost his life. And instead of losing 100,000 sterling, lost 10 sterling. Anyways, next day he comes to shul. He comes out of his car into the shul, and the same guy is there in the parking lot. He's so scared. He starts running into the shul. The guy runs after him. He says, don't run away. Let me tell you something. He hands him 5 sterling. He says, here's the change. He says, he says, so this guy Jacob, he's like totally like shaken to the core. Doesn't know what's going on. He says, what's happening over here? Why did you decide to give me back this money? He says, listen, no one ever said a kind word to me. You said to me that you see I'm intelligent. You see that I'm a good person. No one ever said it to me before. Everyone always told me that I'm a person who has no limits. I'll do anything for $1. I'll kill anybody. No one ever said anything kind to me before like that, like what you said. So I was thinking about it, and I told my guys, this guy, leave him alone. And that's why I want to honor you. You said this is the 10 sterling. I'm giving it back to you. This is the change. Here's back the 5 sterling. People really make a mistake about understanding other people. The Maimonides says the people make a mistake. People think that everyone, like Freud, made this mistake hundreds of years after the Rambam. The Rambam says people aren't looking for pleasure. They're looking for respect. And we see the story of Tamar. I can go into the whole story, but Tamar was pregnant with Yehuda, and she didn't spill the beans and say, hey, you were pregnant with me. Instead, she was ready to go into the fire not to embarrass Yehuda. It's better to die than to embarrass someone. That's what Talmud says we learn from here. Why is that better? Why is it better to die rather than to embarrass someone? Because when you embarrass someone, it's like killing them. Torah says that when you embarrass someone, blood rushes to the head, and it's like spilling blood. There's a Polish tzaddik, I gotta remember his name, who said like this, it says in the Talmud, if you embarrass someone in public, you have no share in the world to come. I think it was a Kutzker who said that, why you have no share in the world to come? He says, because a person who is so insensitive to do that, the world to come won't do anything for you. world to come. You'll be in the world to come, and you won't even get it. You won't even get it. You'll be in the world to come, and you won't even experience it if that's where you're up to. I don't want to be so negative, but getting back to Aaron, what was unique about Aaron? He complimented people. He flattered people. It's not always easy to say a kind word to other people. Not always easy to say to say the nice thing. People, what's better?
Well, in business you have to do that.
To be truthful or to be kind?
Yeah.
To be truthful or to be kind? Sometimes with a spouse, at the end of the day, a husband, a wife, they're hungry, they're tired, and they're not interested in going out of their way and saying something nice to the other person. So they say to themselves, why do they deserve it even? Do they even deserve it? Or even if they do deserve it, I'm not in the mood right now. Do I even mean it when I say it? Do I even mean it when I say it? I might say it, but I don't mean it. Why should I even say it? I'm going to say that you're so wonderful and you're so kind and you're so smart and you're so good, but I'm not even meaning it. The Torah is telling us of the story of Aaron to tell us that we shouldn't think that way. Aaron, when he saw someone steal, you know what he did? Aaron, when he saw somebody steal, a thief, how would he treat a thief? He would go over to that guy and he would smile to him and he would welcome him and he would honor him. And the thief would then, the Talmud says, would go the next day and like, how can I steal? How can I face Aaron? Aaron believes in me. He thinks I'm a good guy. How could I go and let him down and go steal? Kind words in Hebrew, malat. How do you build somebody? Milah tova, with a good word. That's how you build someone. You say something kind to them. The reason Moshe Rabbeinu didn't do this, because Moshe had a different mission in the world. Moshe's mission was a mission of truth. In Russia,
does that mean like the truth hurts? So that he couldn't speak the
Because
truth?
it was more like Gvura, no?
he had a different mission. His job was truth, and truth does hurt. Yes.
I know the Moshe type.
You know the Moshe type. Well, the Torah tells us to learn from Aaron, not to Moshe, because Moshe had a unique mission, not everybody. But I'll tell you something about Moshe in a second. Listen to this. Before we get back to Moshe, I want to tell you something amazing. It's a true story. Rabbi Simcha Gorodetsky writes this story. It's printed in The Shadows of the Kremlin, the amazing book that Art School printed 30 years ago. They just reprinted now. In The Shadows of the Kremlin, there's a story about these two Chassidim who they had information that the KGB was looking for them. In those days, the KGB would arrest Chassidim for teaching Torah underground. And their two Chassidim had information that the KGB was on their tail. So all the Chassidim passed a message to each other. What should we do about this? If the KGB asks us about these two guys, what should we say? So they had this meeting. Having a meeting in Russia isn't easy. That when you went to meet somewhere, they had to go one person and then wait 2 hours, and another person goes in. Whatever. They had this meeting. They finally all gathered together, and they're all discussing what should we do if we're interrogated about these two guys. So they all decide the best thing to do is just to feign innocence. We don't even know those guys. We don't even know them. You're telling us we don't know them. We maybe see them. We know their name. We don't know those guys. They're not our friends. So there were two guys who were at this meeting, and they said, "We cannot do that. We cannot lie. We can't lie. You want us to lie? We don't know how to lie." And the other Chassidim want to kill them. You guys crazy? These people, you're going to put them in danger. How dare you not lie? The Torah says you have to lie. So they said, it's not that we don't want to lie. It's that we don't know how to lie. We cannot lie. It's just not in us to lie. We don't have it to lie. So, interesting, amazing thing happened. KGB brought in all these Chassidim, and they interrogated them one by one. They brought in these two guys too. I don't remember the names. It's too pretty to read the book. When they brought in the first guy, they're about to ask him, "Do you know Jordan?" And before they could answer the question, "Oh, Katzenel and Beugenstein. We don't want Katzenel and Beugenstein. We want Katzenel and Beugen, a different guy." Same thing happened to the second guy. They're about to interrogate the second guy. He can't even answer the question. He can't even be honest because we want a different guy. They had such a unique quality of truth that God did not allow them to ever enter a situation where they were obligated to say something that was not true. But all the rest of the Chassidim that wasn't their mission. They had a mitzvah to say to lie. That was their mitzvah. So Moshe Rabbeinu had a very unique quality. His quality is truth. But you know what happened to Moshe Rabbeinu? Unbelievable. Moshe Rabbeinu passes away. On the day of his passing, Moshe Rabbeinu passes away on Har Nevo. While you read in the Medrash how Moshe passes away, God tells him to lie down and to close his eyes. He died in the words of the Torah and the words of the Talmud with a kiss. What was he thinking while he was lying down? While Moshe Rabbeinu was lying down, what was he thinking? Moshe Rabbeinu was not thinking that, Reb Zev. He was thinking at that moment, he was thinking, my brother Aaron has something that I don't have. He has something that I don't have. He is bringing peace between people. Yes, my whole life was spent spreading the truth. I didn't stop spreading the truth. That's my mission. But you know what? Aaron has something over me. So Moshe Rabbeinu, at his moment, he didn't have a second to not do anything else but his life's mission and not take a calculation of where he was until the last moment of his life. And they're lying there in Har Nevo. You said, you know what? Aaron has something, and that's the Torah. That's why, when the Torah talks about Moshe's passing, it emphasizes the virtue of Aaron, because Aaron has something that we have to learn from.
If Moses said it, it's true.
Right. The Talmud says, obviously, Rav Nosson, it's better to whiten someone's teeth than to give them milk. Giving someone milk is great, but making them feel good, making them smile, put something into their is something that's incredible. It's something that giving someone respect is way more than just giving them pleasure.
How did Aaron know to do that?
That's why, by the way, the people make mistakes and then it's publicized. What happens when it's publicized? I didn't mean it. I'll never do it. We wouldn't make mistakes if things were in the public eye. We only make mistakes because there are no cameras. If there would be a camera, we couldn't do anything. We couldn't make any mistakes. We need the respect of other people. We need it. And that's why you shouldn't think twice about saying a kind word to someone else. Don't worry if it's not real. The previous Rebbe, in his letters, he has very colorful titles for many, many people. Colorful titles, going on and on. Someone asked the previous Rebbe, you wrote about this guy like he is a genius, he is a chassid. The guy's an atheist. Why are you giving us these great titles? I don't know exactly the titles he was writing and exactly the kind of guy he was, but it was that's how extreme it was. So the previous Rebbe said, I'm a chemist. I look for the quality, and I see a trace of that, and I point that out. His title was underscoring the guy's virtue, and he pointed that out. Flattery builds a bond. Flattery, saying a kind word builds a bond. Don't worry if it's not true. So getting back to our question, I'm sure we know the answer now to our question about Rav Yosef. What do you think of Rav Yosef said to that guy? He said, don't to that lady, don't tell your husband. Don't tell your husband. I'm not sure if that's what other rabbis would say. I'll tell you another story, which is really the same point, but a different way of looking at it. My uncle, Chaim Fogelman, he told me that he once wanted to come to. He was studying in the yeshiva in Israel, and his brother's bar mitzvah was coming up, and he wanted to come to the bar mitzvah, but there was some issues halachically with his traveling in Israel, leaving to bar mitzvah. It wasn't so simple, and he asked the Rebbe if he can come for the bar mitzvah. And the Rebbe said, I didn't see the letter. At the time he told me the story, he didn't have the letter either. But he told me the Rebbe said was, the Torah, her paths are peaceful. Her paths are pleasant. It can't. He wrote in the letter, it will mess up all the peace in the family if I don't come to the bar mitzvah. So the Rebbe wrote back, it can't be. If the Torah is the path are peaceful, it must be that this will not mess up your family. It must be that the Torah, whose paths are pleasantness and peace and love, it can't be that by following Torah will mess things up. So I'm just pointing out that there might be another way of looking at the same question, trusting that the Torah is a path of peace, where you might say that maybe she should be open, and that is if that's what the Torah wants, then all things will be okay. I'm not saying that's what you should do. I'm just pointing out that there is another way of looking at it. Okay,
that's from the realm of truth.
That's the realm of truth, but the realm of peace says to vote for peace. Okay, so bottom line is, my friends, we gotta start with something. Start with gratitude to people. Start with saying kind words, appreciation for people in our lives. It's the Gemara says the story about Reb Chia. Reb Chia, Talmud says, had a very hard marriage, a very hard time in marriage, and and everyone knew about it. That's how bad it was. Reb Chia is coming home, and he stops by the store, and he buys a gift, and he wraps the gift. Not just he bought the gift, he wrapped the gift. And one of his students sees him like, are you buying that gift for your wife? He's like, yeah. Why? She doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve it. Why are you buying a gift for her? So Reb Chia says, what do you mean she doesn't deserve it? She raises my children. She saves me from sin. Reb Chia Reb Chia said that, and Reb Chia pointed out something that we all have to pay attention to. There are many things that we receive from other people, and we hide. We don't notice those things because of other things that we look at, and we don't look at the extreme dependency we have on other people and how much we need to show gratitude to other people. Bottom line is we got to learn from Aaron. And yes, Moshe Rabbeinu's attribute is truth, but more important than truth is kindness. And even the Torah says to change the truth for the sake of peace, which means doesn't mean to lie. As the previous Rebbe said, when Aaron said that the guy really regrets the fight, deep down as a Shema does regret it. That's the truth. It's not the open, overt truth. It's a deeper truth. And by speaking good about other people and emphasizing the good in other people and saying nice things, just nice things, even though you don't mean it 100%. Don't worry if you don't mean it. You build a connection with people. You make their house pleasant. When people go home and they don't feel the house is pleasant, they raise their children and they do wonderful things, but the house isn't pleasant. Why is it not pleasant? Because they're not saying anything nice to each other. When you say kind words in your house, the house becomes alive and warm and lebedik and freilich. The bottom line, famous story with the Chafetz Chaim. Chafetz Chaim came to this person's house Friday night, and the guy noticed that the chalas were uncovered. He was so embarrassed. The Chafetz Chaim's in his house and the chalas are uncovered. He screams at his wife, "How dare you not cover the chalas? Don't you know it embarrasses the wine? You don't cover the chalas?" And the Chafetz Chaim's like, "Well, you just embarrassed your wife. The chalas will get over it. The chalas will get over it."
When Aaron did that, did he always go to both people and
Yeah.
or only
Yeah, he always did both. He always played both sides of the deck against each other in a good way. All right, that's one to share tonight. Any other questions? All right, Chaim L'Bracha.